Hi guys, welcome back to the Stretching Samurai. My name is Patrick Gravel, and today in the studio we got a very special guest. We have Brian Forde, ex-offense outfield linebacker,
Outside linebacker.
outside linebacker for the
Orlean Saints and DC Lions.
right on. So today, what we're going to talk about what does it take to get to the NFL. A lot of players are out there, and they're wondering, do you need contacts? Do you need abilities? What do you need, basically? So today, I brought this guy in here. He was happy enough. Sorry, guys, if I'm a little bit late, but we had trouble with the computer. It was updating. So anyways, what we're going to check first is what was his road to the NFL. So why don't you explain a little bit what was the road for you that got you into the NFL?
Well, I got to start off by thanking people like Wally Buono, Tony Proudfoot, Jim Burrow. These were all guys that played with the Montreal Alouettes, whom I used to work out with in the off season. They saw something in me that I could run, and they thought I would have a chance to make it at the university level in the U.S. and reached out to Washington State. I sent a 5-minute highlight film out there. Next thing you know, a month later, I'm going to Washington State, pretty much sight unseen on a strong recommendation of all guys like Wally Buono, Eric Tillman, Tony Proudfoot. Jim Burrow was on the Washington State staff, and I went out there. Nobody knew who I was. Who's this Canadian kid from Montreal? Where's Montreal? There's black people in Montreal. We didn't know any of this. So I get out there, and the first physical test we had was the vertical jump test, and they set up the vertec at 30 inches, and I looked at the top, and I was like, okay, let me see. And so I jumped, and remember, nobody knew who I was at this time. I jumped over the top of the thing. So they had to raise it up, and the gym got quiet because everybody's like looking at me like, who is this guy? And I jumped 35 inches. Needless to say, I set a Washington State record. That was the first thing I did.
Wow.
And then the first practice we had in pads really let me know that I could play in the U.S. At that point, I still wasn't really thinking NFL because I was still rather green, but that would come later.
So basically, you played. Did you go to CJEP here?
Yeah, I went to Champlain, Lennoxville. I played there.
I'm sorry.
I played there 81,
rival team for the Spatial du Montréal.
Yeah,
okay.
In 81, we won the Canadian National Championship.
Oh, man.
And we were 13-0.
Oh, wow. So basically so you had a decision to make at that point because you went to Champlain and you had to go to university after, right?
Well, I ended up actually going to the junior Concords it was at that time. Junior Concords and I guess the Montreal Concords as well. So I went out there, played for Al Gregory and Phil Roberts, and Tony Proudfoot was on that staff. And Tony was finding some pretty interesting roles for me to get into. He had some really unique type defenses for that league, and he saw something in me that I was the only one that was able to do these things. So he got me into these really special sets, and I really thank him for helping me as well.
So basically, then you went to Washington, and what made you decide to go to Washington? Did you say to yourself, a lot of people, because I've got a few players right now in the NCAA, and they had a choice between going to the University League, where you could have played for the Montreal Carabins or Le Rouge et Or de Laval, but they decided to go with the Wolverine. That's Michigan, right?
Michigan, yeah.
That's it. So basically, probably is there a better way to go to the NFL? Should you go in the NCAA before, or can a guy that goes to university here playing for Le Carabins have still a shot to go to the NFL?
Well,
what are the basically?
Well, certainly, recently we've had a lot of guys that have had success that have played in the Canadian University League that have gone down and played in the NFL. There's a guy down in Kansas City right now. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he played for McGill Redmond, and he's starting for Kansas. Duvernay, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's starting for for the Kansas City Chiefs. So it can be done. Certainly, I think the level of play in Canada has certainly come up. I think you have a lot of coaches going down there and going to camps and special clinics and whatnot, and picking up some of the techniques, both on the field and weight room stuff as well. But at the end of the day, the money that is in the U.S. college system and in the NCAA,
it's crazy, you know?
It's insane.
It's full packed. Everybody's there. The whole stadium is going nuts.
You have you have colleges in the U.S. That you go to visit their programs, and they're better than the professional teams in some of the things, facilities that they have. So you say it's an amateur sport, but I really don't know how amateur it is.
So once you go to the NCAA, you were in was it Washington? Is that NCAA? I don't want to look.
Yeah.
That's NCAA, right?
It's NCAA, Washington State. We're Pac-10 now. Now it's Pac-12, and so you're playing the USC Trojans, the UCLA Bruins, University of Washington Huskies, Arizona State, University of Oregon, Oregon State, Cal, and Stanford. So you're playing all the big schools. And my first during my time there, we traveled. We played at Ohio State twice. At Ohio State, we played at University of Michigan. So I played in front of 105,000 people.
Wow. Is that comparable to what you see in the NFL? Basically, when the stadium is there more. What is the ambiance kind of like, depending on both?
Well, the big difference for me, all of them tailgate, but certainly in the NFL, because they sell alcohol, you have a lot of more unruly
I get it.
People showing up. But other than that, they're really crazy for their sports.
So you went to Washington, and at this point, you have a decision to make, right? You can. I guess you're there for a few years, right?
Yeah,
3 years.
4 years.
4 years. And at this point, you got to make a decision. A lot of guys in the NCAA actually got that shot to get to the NFL, or it's the end of the line for them?
Well, the way it really goes, everybody that is in high school thinks they're going to play at the next level. They're going to play at college. Very few get there. Then you go to college. Everybody that gets into college, and especially the scholarship guys, they think they're going to play either the NFL or CFL, and again, very few guys get to that level. When you're playing professional football, it's a man's game. There's no time, for crying and wet noses and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's serious business at that level.
So basically, you finish Washington, and then you get a phone call from New Orleans.
Well, I got drafted by the Saints in the 7th round, and to be honest, I wasn't too thrilled.
No, the 7th is not good.
Well, forget about the draft position itself, but New Orleans had what the NFL Network actually ended up ranking a few years ago, the #1 linebacking crew. Ricky Jackson's in a Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
Pat Swilling was an NFL defensive player.
I saw that in your list that you sent me.
Yeah. Sam Mills was an All-Pro, and then Vaughn Johnson, one of the most unsung guys of that group, and probably one of the better players in the league. He was also an All-Pro. So I'm like, either going to New Orleans or like the Giants, which had LT, Carl Banks.
Wow.
And,
okay, that's it. But you wanted to go to the Giants initially?
No, I wanted to go to a team that didn't have linebackers, so I could get a chance to play.
There we go. And did you get a chance to play during the years? How did that go?
Well, Ricky got my second year, which was '89. Ricky got involved in a car wreck, and he was supposed to be out for like 4 weeks. And the first game, they started another guy who had been a previous starter, and he had some difficulties. And I got to play the fourth quarter in Green Bay, and then I started the Tampa Bay game and had 8 tackles in that game. And for outside linebacker to have 8 tackles in a game in a 3-4 front, it's pretty impressive. And my coach Mora, he was asked after the game, about my play, and he said, "Well, we got some some improved. He's not a guy that's, you know, gonna give a lot of superlatives, but you know, he was pleased with my performance, I think, on that day.
So from that moment on, you were actually always on the roster, playing on the field.
Well, I played for 4 years in New Orleans, and then ended up going in free agency, Plan B free agency to Atlanta, our rivals, the Falcons. Wow. And the first practice of fall camp, I tore up my knee. And okay. And so I missed that entire year. And then I went to camp in Denver the following year, and got released after the third game, and then ended up in Canada. You know, Eric was the GM in British Columbia, Eric Tiltman, and because I had my off-season home in Seattle anyways, I wanted to be closer to home. Mm-hmm. So he made a trade with Edmonton, who had my rights in the CFL. And,
okay.
I ended up for 2 years, and in '94 we won the Grey Cup.
Oh, right on. So you were happy, actually. You got to get a ring out of it.
Got to get a ring out of it. And then my last year was '96. I played here in Montreal, and got
which hurt. Your son is playing against today.
He's playing against them tonight, correct. BC Lions, and he's also wearing my old number, 48. So it's actually come full circle. It's interesting because the equipment manager and the head of their medical department are still the same people, and you know, they see me and they see my son, and especially, you know, Cato, the equipment guy. He's like, "How could this be your son?" Because I mean, we were crazy. We had a bunch of Jamaicans and, you know, guys from the Caribbean on that '94 BC team, and you had to have some really thick skin in that locker room.
So overall, that was a pretty good career, because I see a lot of friends of mine that actually got to the CFL. They never got to the NFL, but they did maybe 2 years, and then sadly the third year they didn't get taken up on their contract.
Right.
So
right.
that was pretty much the end for them at this point.
Well, but you know, there's a lot of things that come into play. Certainly ability. There's guys coming into the league every year who are hungry and want your job. So there's the business side of it. Who's going to be on the hook for a pension and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things behind the scene that come into it. But certainly, whether it's the NFL or the CFL, you know, the first place I think to start off is if you're able to choose your genetics. You know, you choose your dad and you choose your mom. If you're able to do that, that'll put you way ahead of the game. If you're not, I think you know, doing things like what you're doing with Fitness Fix and other, you know, other companies out there. You know, back in my day, you just went into the gym and you tried to lift as much weight as you could, and you didn't really know what you were doing. Now,
so there's a difference between back then and now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So would you say that today, if we had all these specialists today, bringing them to when you were there, your performance would have been?
Oh, it would have been off the charts. I mean, like I said, I had a 35-inch vertical, and I just walked into a gym. I wasn't doing anything special. So, you know, I look at some of the things my son's doing. He's been working at a facility in Phoenix the last 3 or 4 off seasons, and you know, I went down there a couple times and watched what those guys are doing with their athletes, and they have NFL guys, NHL guys, Major League Baseball guys, you know, NCAA guys coming in there, and you know, the kind of things they're doing with those guys. You look at it and you go, how does that relate to what they're doing on the field? But it does. I look at my son, and you know, from what I'm hearing from the Lions, you know, everybody seems to be saying every year he's making marked jumps in his improvements from year to year, and they're seeing it. So yeah, it's really it's very different. It's very different. They tell you how to work out. They tell you what to eat. They tell you how long you should be sleeping and getting rest and regeneration and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool stuff.
So overall, I see that there's many ways to go CFL or NFL, but I guess could it be a little bit of who you know also at the end?
For me, certainly it was. If I didn't have that connection with Wally Wano and Eric Tillman and Tony Proudfoot, and they didn't, have the connection at Washington State with Jim Burrow, I probably wouldn't have gotten to play south of the border, which would have been a shame because I was able to go down there and do a few things. I still remember Wally saying, hey, when you go down there, you got to bust your butt because, if you do well, it'll open the door for the next guys to be able to go down. And you see every year more and more, Canada, was an area that the NCAA schools really didn't recruit, but now they're sending people up
so it's coming up. There's a lot more people. They're looking at us a little bit more.
But again, we treat sports differently, man. Down there, they treat sports in the States like a religion. I guess the best analogy would be, all of their sports pretty much are like hockey is to us up here in Canada.
Because here's the funny thing, and this is a true story. I have a friend of mine. I don't know how he's doing. Hi, Alex. And Alex was would be just like you. He's in the top 1%, and he had a natural ability. He was drafted by the Expos, and then Michigan took him to play football offseason. He wrecked his shoulder, lost both contracts, and which kind of sucked for him. Sorry for you, buddy. But one thing's for sure, he said that when he went there, the level was so high because he's already a natural athlete, right? And he was at Michigan playing, and guys were zipping past through him. It was like he was nothing.
Right.
So basically, is there a big difference in caliber between us, the Canada and the U.S.?
Well, I can
because he got overwhelmed.
I can speak specifically, for football, and I can also speak for the kinds of things I did, on the weekends with my kids. I mean, pretty much, for myself, going down there, you have to learn a whole lot of different techniques. They're doing stuff down there that you're like, you're looking at the other guys trying to figure out, okay, what's the right way to do this, right? Because you've never seen these drills, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then speaking more specifically with my kids, I remember when I got into the workforce, I'd be like looking forward to going to work on Monday because, from Friday, you were either driving, 300-400 miles to get to a tournament here and coming back on, late Sunday night and that sort of stuff, or you were flying, somewhere across the country to go get them into a tournament. So it's very, very different, the commitment to sports. I remember trying to hold my kids out of some things because I wanted a break. And all the neighbors are like calling you, what, you're not signing him up for baseball this year? Or you're not signing him up for soccer?
Yeah.
So they kind of shame you into, even if you don't want to, they kind of shame you into doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I remember my son was playing T-ball at like 4, At 4 years old, you're out there in February in Seattle area, and I got to tell you, it's raining. Nobody wants to be out there. Parents all got their coffees, or they're all under their hoodies and whatnot. You're like, this is insane, man.
So this is kind of like it's like you said, it's a religion.
But it starts.
Sports there.
Yeah. Sports it's a very big part of the community.
So I guess what I get from what you're saying right now is that a lot of guys that go from our teams, let's say, and they actually get into the NCAA.
Right.
If they feel overwhelmed, they shouldn't be overwhelmed. They just need to learn the skills that these guys already do.
Right.
So they should stay grounded, stay focused,
right,
and work at getting those skills that they don't have.
Right.
And they should come out and shining like a brand new penny.
Right. And then the other thing is, a lot of guys, wind up, or gals, whatever the case may be, they wind up, getting homesick. For me, that wasn't really an option because, once I got there, sure, I missed home and mom and dad and, family, friends, whatnot. But at the end of the day, I had a goal in my mind.
You had to go
that I wanted to achieve, and you know, if I didn't want to achieve that goal, then I shouldn't have flown 2,500 miles across the country on the other coast to play football. But I had a goal, and I was fortunate enough to achieve it.
So overall, if there would be something to recap out of everything we just said right now, you want to get into the NFL. Number one, you need to get a lot of skills, but you need to stay focused. You need to stay focused on your goal.
Yep.
You need to put basically like the family side aside and everything aside, and actually focus on one thing.
You've got
for that. If you start focusing on I'm homesick, this, I don't have the skill, they're better than me.
You got to be. Granted, there's a certain level where some guys just have a level of ability
that you probably never will have.
You'll never have that. You can't get there. I mean, they're guys that I call them the genetic freaks. They're guys that get up, walk out of bed. And I'm talking not even me. I'm talking guys. There's guys that I look at. I'm just like, it's insane. These guys go in a weight room and they can bench press 500 pounds whenever they want. I remember I was messing around with one of our defensive linemen. Actually, he was messing with me when I was a rookie, and I kind of got up and got in his face, thought I was tough and all that kind of stuff. And one day I went into the weight room and I saw him doing bench, and it's a huge guy. I mean, he was probably 6'7", so long arms, the whole bit. He's got on 405, and he on the bench, and he's throwing it up like it's a warm up weight for him.
Oh,
and I'm lucky this guy's got a good presence about him, because he could have torn my arms out of the sockets. I mean, that's what I'm talking about when I say genetic freaks. But that said, with the modalities available to you, with the training, the nutrition, the restoration nowadays, if you focus and you apply yourself, you'll be at the very least be able to maximize what you have. Now, whether that's going to be good enough to let you play at the next level, I don't know. But at least you'll know that you've done everything possible to get you there.
Well, that's actually interesting. I like that. So at least they have a way to go through if they want to move ahead. And no matter where they go, if it's CFL, NFL, that you actually gave it your all. Right. You left it all. There's no regrets.
Right.
And at the end, if you bow out, that's about it. But a lot of people, I think, guys, what you got to remember is that if you do get to the CFL or a high level, and let's say you don't go where you need to go, tell yourself that there's a whole bunch of guys that would have loved to get exactly where you are, and they never made it. They just, for some reasons, university last year, boom, I'm done. I'm on the workforce.
Right.
I never go to the CFL. That's something. That's something to be proud of.
Right.
Whatever you achieve, there's always somebody. Like at the school, at the CJ, I see guys sometimes that we're 70 guys, and guys, all they want is what they want to be in uniform. And,
right.
and they did 3 years with our team, right? And we have a good team. We have a good team, and they spent 3 years on the bench. They played maybe 1 or 2 games. It's not that these guys weren't good. It's just there's always somebody better. Sadly.
Well, and again, like you said, they're motivational. Some guys, it's their motivation just to have uniform.
Yeah, it's true though. It's motivation. Yeah. Because
that wasn't my motivation. I mean, I actually quit a team in high school because I wasn't playing. We played in a mud game, and I came home, and my uniform didn't need to get washed.
Oh my God!
It was completely. It was completely clean, and then they figured out. They said, hey, after I'd missed a couple of practices, they brought me back, and they said, we're going to put you in a different position. We're going to try and get outside linebacker. By the next year, I was our team's defensive MVP.
There we go.
It all matters on figuring out as well where.
Oh wow, that's an interesting point. I never saw it like that. So if they put you in the wrong position, maybe you would have been better. So maybe, guys, you need to try out other positions because college college football, like CJEP. They try you here, they try you there. They maybe not be so close-minded about the next position.
Right.
Give it a shot. You might have something good to look forward to, and maybe they'll take you and they go, wow, this guy's awesome at that position. So anyways, guys, I hope that today you see a little bit what Brian went through, and he's been through a lot, and I'm sure we just skimmed the surface. But guys, you got to stay positive. You got to stay orientated on your goal, and that's pretty much it at the end. And give it all and try out stuff, So Brian, I would like to thank you so much for coming on my show today. It's an honor because I never get big guys like you on my show.
So, thanks for having me, man.
Thank you so much, sir.
Great.
And guys, I guess I'll see you in 2 weeks. We're going to do another Chronicle. Maybe we're going to do something different there. We're going to look at how to fix shoulder pains through alternative technique like acupuncture, shiatsu, and stuff like that. So thanks a lot, guys. Stay tuned. Remember, guys, subscribe and go look up this guy.
Right.
Is there a shout out you want to do before we go?
No shout outs.
No shout outs.
Shout out to Fitness. Fitness Fix.
Thanks, guys, and I'll see you next time.
Peace.